Hi, I'm Sir Classy, and on this tutorial I'll show you how to make chords in FL Studio. Now this theory applies to any software generally, but I'll be using FL Studio because I'll share with you the straightforward way you can create chords, the very obvious formula that works every time to create really nice chords. Even if you're having beat block, this formula always works. This is what I use, and this is what works for me every time. Whether you're having beat block, you're feeling uninspired, or you're tired of the same old chords you normally play, this is how I always beat block with the way I play my chords. So first of all, let me assume people watching this will be maybe newbies or semi-pros or people still starting out in FL Studio. So I'm going to start over with the basics on what a chord is, what makes up a chord, the scale, and all those basics. Alright, so let's get started. So first of all, a chord is it's a group of notes in a particular scale that is there are at least two playing at the same time, at least two notes playing at the same time in the same scale. Let's say, for example, we're playing on a major scale, because there are major scale, there are minor scales, there's Dorian scale, there are so many types of scales, but in making music, there are generally two types of scales that are popping right now, major and minor scales. But for now, we'll stick to major scales because it will be easier for most people to understand. So major scale is simply, for example, major scale of key C is simply all the white notes. So I'll be using this for reference. I'll be using this as the guide for creating chords, because I started making beats by playing key C. Even when you open FL Studio, your keyboard, your laptop keyboard is by default set to key C because it's one of the easiest keys to understand for a beginner. So key C, this is the 5th octave, this is the 4th octave, this is the 3rd octave, this is the 6th octave, the 7th octave, the 8th octave. Typically, there are 8 notes in every octave. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then 8. So there are 8 notes that make up an octave. And in every octave, the lower you go typically, the more bars you get. For example, when the 2nd octave, because when you see A2, it means you're in the 2nd octave. And when you hear this is A7, this is the 7th octave of the same key under the same scale, major scale of key C. When we say key C, simply means we're going to stick to all the notes that make up key C as a major scale. I remember I told you key C is all the white keys. The black keys do not make up key C major scale. So whenever you see something with this #7, this #7 is called a sharp. That's when you're going up, it's called a sharp. But when you're coming down like this, it's called a flat. Going up is called a sharp. Coming down is called a flat. So now we do not need any of this for a major scale of key C. So now let's move on to making chords. Before we start making chords, there's a formula I want to share with you. It's called the 1-3-5 formula. Now this formula works every single time you want to make any chord on any scale, not just on major scale of key C. Even if it's the major scale of key F, key A sharp, key D flat, regardless of the key you are picking, so long as it's under the major scale, 1-3-5 always works. So let's start with C. Let's start with C5. So this is 1. The first note you played is 1. This is the 2nd note that makes up key C. This is the 3rd. This is the 4th. This is the 5th. So remember I said 1, 3, 5. So this is 1, 2, 3. So we take out number 2 by right clicking to clear it out. Then 4, we take out 4. So we need 1, 3, 5. So this is how it sounds. So I'll play it so you listen. So that is how a chord is formed. This is a triad. There are other types of chords like major fourths, major fifths, major sixths, major sevenths. There are so many dominants. There are so many different types of chords, and I'll take you through some in this video. So while you want to form chords, what I typically advise is you draw out the notes before you go too far. For example, play this. Let's say I come down here, then I come here, and I come here. Now it doesn't have to be 4, it could be 2, it could be 3. If it was 3, it would just simply extend all the way here, for example, or this could extend all the way here. So it doesn't have to be, it could be 2 chords, it could be 3 up to this point, it could be 4. But if it was 3, you extend it. So remember, it has to complete either 4 or 8 bars. For example, this from here to here is 2 bars. From here to here is another 2 bars. So that is 4 bars. Let's reference this place here. Sorry, this is 8 bars. My mistake. So from here to here is 2 bars. From here to here is another 2 bars. So this is 4 bars. Another 4 bars here altogether, making 8 bars. So it has to be divisible by 2, either 4 or 8, or could 12 work? 12 will not flow properly, so then 16. So either 4, 8, or 16 bars for your chords, but most times 4 or 8 is good enough. So now let's play it and listen if these notes flow well together. Alright, I think that flows fine. So now we'll form our chords. This is 1, 3. This is 1, 2, 3. So E is 3. So 1, 3, 3. Sorry. 4, 5. So remember, the hash does not, this is not in the scale of key C. So this is, then we'll come here. This is 1, 2. This is 2. B4 is 2. Then 3. C is 3. This is 4. This is 5. Then D. Yeah, sorry. This is 3 because this is 1, 2, 3. So F is 3. Then this is 5. Then G. This is 3, 5. So let's play it back and listen. Now, isn't that lovely? Let me spin the tempo up a little bit. Let's see here. Okay. So isn't that lovely? So now this is how to form triads. You can just paint the notes first. Then if it flows well, then you can make the chords around it. So now there's so many ways you can make this chord. You can make a variation out of this. The first is by taking, I think it's called the major fifth. Is by placing on the first note after your last note in your initial chord. Now this was the last note on our chords. So the very first note in key C. After it is A. So when you play it, it changes the vibe and gives more of that R&B soulful feel. For example, you see that this is without it, now this is with it. So this can make your track sound even more soulful, even more if depends on the vibe you are trying to get. So this is a way to make it, to spice it up a little bit more. You can do it for some parts. You may not necessarily want to do it for all your chords here. You may just pick some few parts that may need it. Let's try here again and see. Okay, let's bring it here. No, it's not flowing there, so I think it goes well here. So you just have to sit back and listen a lot of time. Let's see. Alright, so now for example, it fits the first and the last chord. Sometimes it may fit all of them, sometimes it may just sound weird with all of it. So for example, it goes best with the first and the last chord. And this is just you trusting your ears and what you listen. So you don't have to use it for everything. Now the next is the major sevenths, which is by taking it 2 notes after your taking it 2 notes after your initial chords. Remember the fifth was a note after, then the 7th is 2 notes after. So let's listen to it now with 2 notes. The 2 notes typically, that is this major 7th, typically goes with a lot of it's not as selective as the major 5th. So this is it here, then this here. Then let's raise this up here. So let's listen. Sorry. All right. So now that's fine. So now when you have this variation of chords, it changes the vibe of the song. So also be careful when using them to make sure it matches the vibe you're looking out for. You can also blend the 5th and 7th together. That is, let's say for example, I can bring this here. You see, it just makes it sound interesting. So you can blend 5th and 7th together to make it sound even more interesting. So let me take this out, So now another way to make your chords interesting is by using inverse chords. Inverse chords simply means you take one of these and shift it or move it either to a higher or lower octave. So let's say for example, I pick this, and yes, then I can control down, that is control and my down arrow key, or if I use a Mac command and your down arrow key, it takes it down to a lower octave. You see, change from G4, so from G5 now change to G4. Same here from A4, from A5 to A4. So this will make it sound more even because this note here had a little bit more bars and this also had a little bit more bars, while these two were a bit too bright. So sometimes you need to make it sound even with the with how heavy the chords sound. So making inverse chords is one of the easiest way to balance that. So let's listen. That's marvelous. Now, another thing you can still do with your chords is by selecting some notes here. Maybe you want to have some more bars. When you select them, you hold your shift key to move it slightly, shift and your left mouse key to click it, then you bring it down to a lower octave to give it more bars. Listen. You see how I gave it a new life, a new dimension to what you are playing. Alright, so another thing you can do to make your progression sound even more alive, like it's realistic, is by slightly altering the time on which they land. Because when your hand hits a keyboard, it doesn't hit, because your hand, they don't have the same length. They are all different lengths. One is longer than the other. No, none of your fingers are equal. So to try and replicate that in music, you just click maybe none, then do slide shifting, not something too obvious. Slide shift pardon me, slide shift here and there, then listen now. Versus, so this sounds even more alive. You can do this for a lot of your tracks. Just randomly move it slightly. You can do this. You can also move the bass slightly, remember, slightly. Alright, so this is all you need to know in creating chords as a beginner using FL Studio or regardless Reason, Ableton. This theory applies regardless of the software you use. So I have courses on my Udemy page. Simply click the link in my bio on YouTube, or you see in the description below for my music production courses. In my music production courses, I made full examples and theories on how to make your chord sound even better while trying to make a beat around it. And also I have some free sample packs and sample kits below in my YouTube description. So check my YouTube description. You see somewhere around down there my links to get free kits and loops, all high quality kits and loops that will help your music production game level up. And also register in my courses to get more in-depth knowledge from what I'm sharing here. I hope this helps, by the way, but I'm sure you get even more value when you register for the course. I remain Sir Classy. Cheers.